Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Mursaleen amma ba'd fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaytanir rajeem bismillahir rahmanir rahim As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Rasulallah As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Habiballah As-salatu wassalamu alayka ya Nabiyallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Noorallah. Our beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said that a person who sends 50 times daily durood or salutations or salawat upon me, I will shake hands with him on the day of judgment. Sallu ala al-Habib sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salatan wa salaman alayka ya Sayyidi ya Rasulallah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah. Dearest Islamic brothers and the viewers of Madani Channel, once again we welcome you into this beautiful silsila of Madani Channel, Blessings of Hadith. As usual, inshallah Azza wa Jal, we will discuss few ahadith of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and give commentary on those ahadith. وعن عائشة رضي الله تعالى عنها أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال في مرضه الذي لم يقم منه لعن الله اليهود والنصارى اتخذوا قبور أنبيائهم مساجد متفق عليه. This hadith is reported by Hazrat al-Mu'mineen Sayyidatuna Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha. She says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, in that illness from which he did not recover. And what he said, that may Allah curse Jews and Christians because they made the graves of their prophets alayhimussalam place of worship, or they prostrated towards their graves. So how they used to prostrate towards the graves of the prophets, how they made the graves of the prophets alayhimussalam as place of worship. There are several ways which ulama ikram have explained. It happened this way, that they used to prostrate towards the graves, or they used to worship the graves itself. Both the actions are shirk, or of the fold of Islam. Or maybe they used to destroy the graves and make floor on top of the graves, and they would stand on that floor, and the covers of the prophets alayhimussalam used to be under their feet, and that was an insult of the grave, and especially the graves of the prophets alayhimussalam should be highly respected. And also keep in mind that at the astanas or mizars of awliya Allah, Masjid are built for the sake of barakah. So people can go and perform namaz, and they can recite Quran Kareem. All that is proven from Quran and Ahadith Mubarakah. It is mentioned in Surah Kahf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَنَتَّخِذَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ مَسْجِدًا, that the believers of that time, they took qasam, they vowed that we will build a mosque on them, mean on Ashab-e Kahf. So the Muslims, the believers of the time of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, when Hazrat Isa alayhi salam's Shariat was valid, and Ashab-e Kahf were awliya Allah from the ummah of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. So the Muslims of that time, the believers of that time, they vowed, they took qasam that we will build masjid on the cave next to where Ashab Kahf were. Our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his Roza Aqdas, there is grave next to the Roza Mubarak, or the grave of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And next to the mizarat of many Sahaba Ikram, awliya Allah, there are masajid, there are mosques where people go and worship. And these days, it has become culture amongst normal Muslims that wherever there is a mizar of wali of Allah, people build up a masjid. So visitors who come there to visit the mizar, they can also make some ibadat in the masjid. And this is valid in Sharia, this is correct in Sharia, because this is proven from Quran and from Hadith. When the sinful Israelis were sent to Baitul Maqdis, were sent to Jerusalem, so they were ordered, وَادْخُلُوا الْبَابَ سُجَّدًا وَقُولُوا حِطَّةٌ, that you should enter the door of that city while prostrating and say words of istighfar. Hitta is word of istighfar. Why were they sent there? Because there was barakah. And why was there barakah? Because there were qubur and there were graves of many of the Prophets alayhimus salam and awliya Allah in Baitul Maqdis. And also keep in mind that it is prohibited to perform salat while standing on the grave. But if a slab is put on top of the grave, maybe one puts pillars and then he puts slab, and then to stand on top of that slab, that is not regarded as standing on the grave itself. Like there are many mizars in Mataf around Kaaba, and in fact where Mizab-e-Rahmat is, under that there is mizar of Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam, there is grave of Hazrat Ismail alayhi salam. But when we stand there or when we make tawaf, we are not directly walking on the ground. Actually, there is a slab, there are pillars, and on top of that, there is slab. So when we walk there, we are not walking exactly on the graves of the Prophets alayhimus salam. وعن عائشة قالت أمر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ببناء المسجد في الدور وأن ينزف ويطيب. رواه الترمذي وابن ماجة وأبو داود. Hazrat Sayyidatuna Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu ta'ala anha reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has ordered to build mosques in homes, and he has ordered to keep the masajid purified and fragrant. This hadith is recorded by Imam Tirmizi and Ibn Majah and Abu Dawud. This could mean that we should make a Masjid-e-Bait. Masjid-e-Bait means that make an area of your house exclusive for namaz, for the ibadat of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. And then keep that area clean and fragrant. Put perfume in and around that place. In some areas, in some countries, people make a namaz room. This is very good practice. And that namaz room then can be used for Islamic sisters to make their sunnat-e muakkada i'tikaf in the month of Ramadan. But if there is no masjid-e bayt, if there is no particular area which is fixed for ibadat or for namaz, then Islamic sister at home cannot sit for i'tikaf. So this is one of the meanings. And Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, we find this practice in our elders. Our early Muslims, they used to have this type of arrangement in their homes. But unfortunately, this practice is going away. These days when people plan their homes, everything is added. But what is missing and what is lacking is the namaz room, is the place which is being specifically identified and uniquely marked that this place is for worship, for the ibadat of Almighty Allah Azza wa Jal. And this could also mean that if there are few homes of Muslims, they should make a masjid. So from nearby, they can come and perform their salat at the masjid. And we also learn from this hadith mubarakah that we should keep our masajid fragrant, perfumed. So things like agarbatti, oud, etc., as they burn and that smoke creates good smells, that is good practice. But do not bring in the masjid. Sometimes people bring the smoke of luban, which is very strong and it does not have a good smell, and they bring it in the masjid. That would not be allowed. It must have pleasing and good perfume smell, then it should be done. And it should be kept in a tray. Agarbatti, for example, should be kept in a tray that the ash does not fall on the ground of the masjid or on the carpet of the masjid and mess things up. وعن جندب رضي الله تعالى عنه قال سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول ألا وإن من كان قبلكم كانوا يتخذون قبور أنبيائهم وصالحيهم مساجدا ألا فلا تتخذوا القبور مساجدا أني أنهاكم عن ذلك. Hazrat Shaykh Abdul Haq Muhaddis Dehlvi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayh, he writes in Ash'atul Lam'at that even if the grave is demolished, still too it is not allowed or it is prohibited to perform salat at that place, in other words, on top of the grave itself. But as far as the masajid are concerned, which are built next to the graves or the mizars of pious people or awliya Allah, with the intention of taking help from the ruh, from the soul of wali of Allah, so this would make the salat more acceptable in the court of Allah Azza wa Jal. He says in Lam'at that this is very good practice. So great authentic scholars like Hazrat Shaykh Abdul Haq Muhaddis Dehlvi Rahmatullahi Ta'ala alayh endorses and sanctions that this practice to build up a masjid next to the mizar of a wali of Allah and then going there and performing salat in order to seek help from the ruh of wali of Allah, so our ibadat can be accepted and we can gain blessings, is very good practice. وعن ابن عمر رضي الله تعالى عنهما قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اجعلوا في بيوتكم من صلاتكم ولا تتخذوها قبورا متفق عليه. This hadith is in Sahih Bukhari and in Sahih Muslim. Hazrat Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhuma, he reports that our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that fix some of your namazes or your salats for whom, and do not make your homes as graveyards. It means that you should read farz in the masjid and read your sunnat or nawafil at home, or read your 5-time daily full namaz at the masjid, and read your tahajjud and chasht and ishraq, etc. at home. So at home, when you read namaz, women folk, children, they can see you performing salat, and they can also learn and have enthusiasm to become punctual namazi. And also it is important that the namaz which you read at home, the showing off factor becomes less, because when you are in the masjid and in front of so many people, the possibility increases that one may start showing off. But if you are at home, there will be no need and there are less chances. So some of the namazes should be performed at home. And in the second part of the hadith, it is said that don't make your homes graveyards. It means that do not make your homes free from ibadat, like the graveyards. Nobody goes to read namaz there. So in your house, you should read namaz, so your homes or your house does not look like a graveyard. Another understanding is that don't start burying your deceased people in your homes or in your houses, because that is exclusive with the Prophets ﷺ. So wherever a Nabi of Allah Azza wa Jal tastes the death, that is the place where he should be buried. So that is exclusivity. And it also tells us that Anbiya ﷺ are not ordinary people like us. The rule for us is that we should be buried in the normal graveyard of the Muslims. But Nabi of Allah, his rule is different, that where his soul departs, that's the place where he should be buried. وعن أنس قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن من أشراط الساعة أن يتباهى الناس في المساجد رواه أبو داود والنسائي والدارمي وابن ماجة. This hadith has been recorded by Imam Abu Dawood, Nisai, Darimi and Ibn Majah. Hazrat Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu reports that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, it is from the signs of Qiyamah that people will exercise pride in the masjid. So this hadith could mean that they will decorate masajid with pride. The intention would not be to make the house of Allah Azza wa Jal beautiful. Intention would be just to exercise their pride. So this is not allowed. But if the show off or the pride factor is not there, then it is allowed to decorate the masjid and beautify the masjid. It is exercised throughout the world that Muslims, they do lighting on Shab-e-Qadr or on Shab-e-Barat or on the night of 12th of Rabiul Awwal. And some people stop that because of using this hadith. So this is actually incorrect, because this hadith refers to the person who is doing all this because of pride, takabbur, arrogance, or because of showing off. But if this factor of showing off and arrogance and pride is not there, then it is allowed and there is no problem to decorate and beautify the masajid. And also it means that people who come in the masjid and they mention their contributions towards that masjid, that is a sign of Qiyamah. And there are many people who have this habit that they want to let everyone know how much they have contributed towards this masjid. Some would actually ask the management to make announcement. In some areas, in some countries, for small little donations, their names are announced in the masajid. So and so has given so much, and so has given so much, and so has given so much. What is the reason? Why their names are being announced? They want to let everyone know that he's a very holy person, very nice person, very generous person, because he gives this and he gives that and he gives so much and he gives so much for the masjid in the path of Allah Azza wa Jal. So there is no room for that. Yes, if there is any deeni benefit in it, then of course it's a different issue. Innamal a'malu bin niyat. Actions depend upon the niyat, upon the intention. So the person who is asking the management or Imam Sahib to make his announcement, then he must look deep down in his heart. What is his intention? Is it not because of pride and arrogance and showing off? Or is there a good niyat that he has already made? But it's very hard from normal public who don't even have the knowledge of niyat or intention to make good niyats at that time. وعنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أُرِدَتْ عَلَيَّ أُجُورُ أُمَّتِي حَتَّى الْقَذَاتُ يُخْرِجُهَا الرَّجُلُ مِنَ الْمَسْجِدِ وَعُرِدَتْ عَلَيَّ ذُنُوبُ أُمَّتِي فَلَمْ أَرَ ذَنْبًا أَعْزَمُ مِنْ سُورَةٍ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ أَوْ آيَةٍ أُوتِيَهَا رَجُلٌ ثُمَّ نَسِيَهَا رواه الترمذي وأبو داود. And this hadith is also reported by Hazrat Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that good deeds of my ummah were presented to me till that little dust which a man takes out from the masjid, that was also presented. And then the sins of my ummah were presented to me. And I did not see any bigger sin than the sin of a person who was given a surah of the Quran or ayat of the Quran and he forgot it. From this hadith mubarakah, we learn that to broom in the masjid, to take the dust out from the masjid, it is a great act of thawab. So those who clean the masjid or they paint the masjid or they fix anything that is broken in the masjid, that is very good amal, that is very good act. And the second part which is mentioned is that the person forgets any surah or any ayat which he was given, he was given the chance to memorize it, and then because of not making dawr, not repeating, or he's not reading that in the namaz, or in the salat, and because of that he forgot. So if person forgot about it because of old age or his memory is no more strong, that person is excluded from this. A person who because of his laziness, because of not taking interest in recitation of Quran Kareem, he deliberately does that and he forgot. So his sin is regarded as a'zam, the biggest sin. وعن أبي سعيد الخدري قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إذا رأيتم الرجل يتعاهد المسجد فاشهدوا له بالإيمان فإن الله يقول إنما يعمر مساجد الله من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر رواه الترمذي وابن ماجة والدارمي. This hadith has been recorded by Imam Tirmizi and Ibn Majah and Darimi. Hazrat Abu Sa'id Khudri radiyallahu ta'ala reports, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that when you see someone taking care of a masjid, you should be witness upon his iman. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran Kareem that the one who builds the masjid, he indeed believes in Allah and in the day of judgment. So how he builds the masjid? Ulama Ikram have said that it means that he presents himself for namaz every time. He takes care of the masjid. He cleans the masjid. He repairs the masjid. And he decorates the masjid to the sanctioned limits, to the allowed limits in Sharia. Or he sits in the masjid and he teaches the masail of deen, or he learns the masail of deen. So when you see a person doing that, you give shahada, you give evidence that he is a believer. What is the meaning of shahada? The meaning of shahada is like when you look a person who's wearing Islamic dress and his outlook is Islamic, so you say he's a Muslim. So this type of shahada is meant here, because you don't know what is in his heart. So there is apparent shahada because he is doing something of Muslims. He's coming to the masjid, he's repairing the masjid, he's giving dars or taking dars, etc. These are the a'mal of Muslims. As far as qat'i or categorical decision is concerned, that you cannot do. So this would mean that if a person whose aqaid are corrupted, or his aqaid or beliefs have reached the limit of kufr, then if he comes and builds the masjid, or he sits in the masjid, or looks after masjid, or he gives donation in the masjid, then one would not give shahada of his iman, because he has shown his aqaid, his beliefs, that he does not believe in the mainstream teachings of Islam or in the mainstream aqaid of Islam. So we would not give shahada of that person's iman. Now the person, maybe we know that he is sahihul aqidah, or his condition is hidden from us, he is masturul hal. Then looking at his apparent condition, we will give shahada and we'll say he is a believer. وعنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أتى المسجد لشيء فهو حظه رواه Abu Dawud. This hadith has been reported by Hazrat Abu Huraira radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, a person who comes to the masjid with whatever intention, that is his share, mean he will get that. The meaning of this hadith mubarakah is that whichever niyat or intention you make when you're going to the masjid, you will get that. If your intention is to steal the shoes, then you will be given hiding with the shoes. And if your intention is to go and beg in the masjid, do the act of begging, so then you always will be begging. Your condition will not change. And if you go there to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for namaz and for the dhikr of Almighty Allah azza wa jal, then you will get sawab. Now a person who goes to Masjidul Nabawi or he goes to Masjidul Haram and his intention is that I want to get Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He is Ashke Rasul, he is a lover of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he wants the closeness and the qurb and the nearness of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he will get that. And this should be the only intention that one should make when you are there, that I want the qurb of Allah Azza wa Jal. I want the proximity of Allah Azza wa Jal and His beloved Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وعن عمرو بن شعيب عن أبيه عن جده قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن تناشد الأشعار في المسجد وعن البيع والاشتراء فيه وأن يتحلق الناس يوم الجمعة قبل الصلاة في المسجد. رواه أبو داود والترمذي. This hadith is reported by Hazrat Amr bin Shu'aib. He reports from his father and he reports from his grandfather. This hadith is reported by Hazrat Amr bin Shu'aib. He reports from his father and his father reports from his grandfather. That our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stopped reading couplets or ash'ar or poetry in the masjid. And also he has stopped buying and selling in the masjid. And also Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stopped people sitting in circles in the masjid before the namaz of Jum'ah. In this hadith Mubarakah we learn that ash'ar or couplets or poetry is prohibited in the masjid. It means that such poetry in which metaphorical love is being discussed, as normally men and women, they write poetry about each other. Hamd of Allah Azza wa Jal or Naat of the beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam or manqabat of awliya Allah or pando nasihat, like poetry based on islah, on reforming, or to praise Islam and to condemn kufr. Such poetry is allowed. Sahaba Ikram used to do that. Hazrat Hassan radiallahu ta'ala anhu and Hazrat Ka'b ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu, these were Sahaba Ikram who used to write poetry and read in the masjid. And pulpit of the masjid or member of the masjid used to be put for Hazrat Hassan bin Thabit radiallahu ta'ala anhu to stand on the member and recite Naat of our beloved Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that Naat or Hamd or Manqabat poetry is excluded from this. And then the second thing which is prohibited is buying and selling. Sometimes people bring books in the masjid, even if they are Islamic books, and they're selling there. That is not allowed, because buying and selling in the masjid is prohibited. However, a person who is sitting for itikaf, he is mu'takif, he can verbally make a deal of a business if it is required, but he cannot bring physically something to do that. And third thing which is mentioned in this hadith Mubarakah which is prohibited is to sit in the masjid before namaz Jum'ah in halqas. The reason is that this is the time to sit in the saf, because big crowd is going to come, and you sit in the halqas in different places, you might cause some problems. And secondly, it is now time to listen to khutbah, to the bayan, to the lecture. So each individual must leave their other engagements and get ready to listen to what is going to be told to them and what is going to be taught to them in the masjid on that Friday, on that Jum'ah, on that big day. So therefore, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has prohibited from that practice. So Alhamdulillah Azza wa Jal, from these few ahadith, we have learned many beautiful Madani pearls relating to Masajid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala fill our hearts with the love of Masajid, so we may love going to the masjid and spending time in the masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to do maximum ibadat in the masjid and in our homes. And we may also have Masjid-e-Bayt, so we can read some parts of our namazes at home, and our family and our children can learn from our practice. Ameen bijahi Nabil Ameen. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. Sallu ala al-Habib. Sallallahu ta'ala ala Muhammad. sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Salatan wa salaman alayka ya sayyidi ya Rasulullah wa ala alika wa ashabika ya Habiballah.
You are alive by Allah, you are alive. Oh, you who's hidden away from my physical sight.